we will bring you all the best pins, all of the hardware, and the pucks that find the back of the net. Don't bring this into my house, so let's be aggressive as we bring you all the best Cardinal highlights. Sports Night is next.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sports Night. I'm Joe Young.
And I'm Howie Shapiro. We're winding down, Joe. We're winding the season.
But an historic event has occurred since last we sat upon this desk.
Absolutely.
And, so exciting stuff to talk about, and a couple of Cardinals punching their way to the state tournament. So very exciting show.
Got a lot of good highlights and a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
Well, we are going to start with the boys hockey team. The Cardinals opened the section tournament on Tuesday, heading north to face Cloquet Esco Carlton. The Cards beat the Lumberjacks in their one meeting this year, but came up short in the coach's vote. So as the 5 seed, they had to play in front of the CEC home crowd. Unfortunately, it was way too far for the CTN crew to make it. Fortunately, we were able to get a few clips from our friends at WDIO in Duluth. Cardinals looking for their first playoff win in 20 years, but they'd have to come from behind as they did the first time. The Lumberjacks strike first on the power play. Lucas Ronner able to find a hole through the traffic out front, puts EC on the board less than 5 minutes in. Cardinals answer late in the period. Loose puck poked right to Tristan Goal, and he hammers it home. Bounder strike is again early in the second. His second of the game put the Lumberjacks back in front 2-1. And that's all the highlights we got because DIO was focusing on their guys. And the rest of the highlights came courtesy of the visiting team. The Cardinals scored the next 2 goals. And then after a 3-3 tie in the second intermission, they came out just as they did the first time against the Lumberjacks, scored 3 times in the third period, and secured that 6-3 win. A fantastic
historic win.
Historic 20 years it's been since they had a win in sections. It comes against the Lumberjacks on the road in the quarterfinals. And Will Wagner, fantastic, 92% saves. He was busy. They were heavily outshot.
They were
in that game, but Wagner took care of business and helped secure a win. And when your offense scores 6 goals, it makes it a lot easier too.
We were just starting out relatively so when they won their last hockey game in the playoffs. So 6 years in, for us. Yeah.
Back
we were just
back
pups.
in my day,
we were just pups. Well, speaking of pups, the Cardinals headed to the AMS Oil Arena in Duluth on Saturday morning for their semifinal showdown with top-seeded Duluth East. The Greyhounds, they beat the Cardinals 8-3 in early December, and they've been red hot ever since. They came in on an 11-game win streak and averaging almost 6 goals per game during that stretch. It would be a tall task, to say the least. Will Wagner made 55 saves in the first game against Duluth East, and he played big again on Saturday. Team gets him the lead in the first beautiful behind-the-back pass by Bowden. Tyler Barsness finishes with his 27th of the season. Cards up 1-0 after 1. A nice goal there. Greyhounds turn up the speed in the second. Makoto Tsuda at the top of the crease evens up the score. And the Dogs keep coming. They had 24 shots on goal in the second period. Bowden Donovan gets the third rebound past Wagner to give Duluth East 2-1 lead. They had a couple more in the third. Great effort from Cole Christian. Slides it behind Wagner. And Noah Tang has a wide open cage. Well, the Greyhounds, they outshot the Cards 53-22 in the game. Caden Cole finishes the scoring with a one-timer in the slot. The Cardinals season ends with a 4-1 loss in the semifinal.
I might have written a little too much there for you, but
never too much for me.
Yeah, Will Wagner playing outstanding again. Just looking at those 2 games against Duluth East, he had over 100 saves between the 2 games, and really Cardinals in both of those games until at least midway through the second period.
Absolutely.
And then that pressure, that continuous pressure, finally paid off. But, the Cardinals still a young team. They have a handful of seniors who were contributors this year, but the bulk of their scoring, a lot of talent in that junior group that after 2 years has definitely shown a progression. It'll be interesting to see what they do as seniors.
Yeah, what great experience coming into the next year.
Well, it's been a rough road for the Cardinals wrestling team this year, but it's still leading a couple of guys to the ultimate destination. Cards started the season with a small and inexperienced club, and a laundry list of injuries to key competitors has limited what they've been able to achieve. But they do have a couple of leaders who have been able to stay healthy, and now they've got a couple of guys headed to the state tournament. They didn't have to travel far on Saturday. Blaine hosting this year's 7-3A individual championships. Jack Bridenstine has been a great leadoff man for the Cardinals all year, and he dominates the 106-pound bracket. Pinned Blaine's Max Brady in just 38 seconds. Had another first period pin in the final. He's headed to state as a section champion. Senior captain Hunter Allen has battled through some injuries this year, and he had a strong showing at 152 in sections. His pin over Anoka's Oliver Ullman helped him reach the final. Unfortunately, he lost the true second match in overtime and finishes third. Junior captain Carter Skradsky will be joining Bridenstine at the X this week. Opened the tournament with back-to-back pins, and after losing in the championship, he was able to score a decision in the true second match, and he will be going to state as the section runner-up. So, with all of the troubles that they've had this season, it's really been those two guys. Remember, just a couple weeks ago, they went to a quad and really only had 3 or 4 guys who were able to wrestle.
Right.
And 2 of them were Bridenstine and Skradsky. Those guys have been outstanding all year long, have had a great season, and it's just been hampered by the lack of success and continuity even on their team's roster, but it has not dissuaded them from achieving great things at the end of the season.
Yeah,
so best of luck to them for sure.
For sure, and I feel for Hunter Allen because he had an injury. He had dealt with some injuries earlier, and then he had the opportunity to go to state and just couldn't get through it. So close
in overtime of the true second match even.
Well, the swimming and diving state tournament starts Thursday at the University of Minnesota, and the Cardinals have one young man going to the show. Junior Mitch Tronson qualified as section runner-up in the 200 individual medley. He had several other strong swims in last week's section meet, but unfortunately, he's the team's lone qualifier. We're going to start with the final of the 100 butterfly. Cardinals with 2 contestants in the red caps towards the top of the screen. You'll see how close this one is through the entire pack. Mitch Tronson finishes in 6th place. His teammate right next to him coming up, Nate Larson's going to take 5th place with a time of 55.5 seconds, 13/100ths ahead of Tronson.
They get to celebrate on the podium.
Yeah, they do get to celebrate on the podium. Senior Frank Denton qualified for the final of the 100 breaststroke. He had a solid time of 1:05.53, but it's not fast enough to extend his season. Still, he finished his career with a little bit of hardware. You're going to see coming up, and a handshake. Always nice to finish with that medal. And now, the 200 IM final. Centennial's Max Schurer runs away with the win, but Tronson is all alone in second. And watch the race for third. Nate Larson able to finish strong and secure the bronze spot. They're back on the podium together again. Tronson's time in the final, 2:05.21, and he's headed to the state meet as section runner-up. Nice job by everybody. Nice job, Mitch, to get to state.
Yeah, it's very cool to see him as he's progressed over the last couple seasons of his high school experience and really become a great leader.
Yes.
Grabbing first places in almost every event he was in all season long to try and help his team succeed. And he's just a junior, so they're going to lose some of those other talented members of the team. You see some of the other top finishers. Nate Larson is a senior. Mitch Tronson, again, he was right behind him. We saw that in the butterfly. Nolan Schultz, I believe, is also a senior. Jackson Ling, I think, will be back. And Zachary Carter, the diver who finished in 9th place, he's just a freshman.
Right.
So they do have a couple of guys that are doing good things this year who will be back. And certainly best of luck to Mitch Tronson at state. That's coming up at the Gene K. Freeman Aquatic Center down at the University of Minnesota later this week. We will certainly have results for you next week on Sports Night, and maybe even some video. We'll see.
That'd be nice.
We'll see. But certainly best of luck to young Mr. Tronson as he heads to the state tournament. Well, the boys basketball team will wrap up its regular season schedule this week. Last week, their last 2 home games of the season. On Tuesday, the Cardinals welcomed Centennial to the Fieldhouse. Cougars were a half game behind Coon Rapids in both the conference and section standings. So there was a lot on the line when they took the court.
6-2 lead early here.
Cardinals trying to avoid falling behind early. Jackson Hetwer knocks down a three-pointer as the teams traded baskets early. But this is a tough team to have a shootout against. Jackson Dreesen had an absolute monster game against the Cardinals. He had 4 of the Cougars' 11 three-pointers in the first half. Jerry Freeman had himself a career night for the Cardinals. He hits a big 3 from the top of the key, but the Cards down double digits midway through the first. Freeman had a double-double, but his 6 assists were almost as impressive. Watch this beautiful no-look to Connor Jordan underneath. He had 14, did Jordan against Centennial, but the Cards trail 49-31 at the break. Freeman tried to carry the team back in the second half, but they never threatened the lead. He had career bests with 31 points and 12 rebounds. Cardinals also got a double-double from Belpedio. Strong finish on the baseline for the bucket and the bump. He had 10 points, 10 boards. Cardinals never threatened that lead once again. Big reason Jackson Dreesen, he was all over the place. 45 points for Dreesen as the Cougars run away with a 94-78 win.
Yeah, again, you dig yourself in a hole, which the boys did, and it was tough to get out. And, Dreesen just played it out of his mind with those 45 points. But don't take anything, obviously, away from Jerry Freeman. Boy, was he good. And
he was.
You talk about was it 31 points, 12 rebounds? You don't even talk about how many assists he had. 6 assists. Boy, that highlight, though, that was such a beautiful pass.
And there's a couple
Jordan.
of others that were just, they were fantastic. It was fun to have him, see him have that game. It would have been nice had they been able to get some of the other guys into a rhythm. Jackson Young was limited with foul trouble through the first half. And then they couldn't really get anyone else to feel that rhythm, and a lot of shots in close even that just wouldn't fall for the Cardinals. Good news is they did not let themselves fall into a big hole against Rogers on Friday. This game postponed from Thursday to Friday due to the storm. I think they may have even been up by 1 at the break, and they put up 86 points, which is definitely respectable.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they fall 92-86. Jackson Young carrying a heavy load with 31 points. Connor Jordan chipped in 14, and Freeman added 13. The Cardinals fall to 5-19, and just a couple of games remain. They are at Elk River on Tuesday and at Champlin Park on Friday. Girls basketball team will start the section tournament this week. They started last week on the road with the exact same matchup they'll see to start the postseason against top-seeded Centennial Cougars. Cougars beat the Cardinals 77-31. Nobody able to get out of into double digits, I should say. Kaylin Green, the leading scorer, with 7 points. Alex Schmidt led the team in rebounds with 6. They fall to 1-24, and then they also had to delay until Friday. Traveled up to Rogers where they lost 78-31. Casey Beck, 1 point away from a double-double. She had 9 points and 10 rebounds. Kaylee Bierman had 6 points and 5 boards. Persia Glenn had 5 points and 8 rebounds. But they finished the season 1-25, and that means an 8th place or an 8th seed for the Section 7 4A tournament. And they traveled to take on Centennial, who has beaten them by 40-plus points in both of their meetings this season. Yeah,
it's going to be a tough matchup, quite obviously. Good to see Persia Glenn back. I know she was out a little bit, and obviously they need her with her ability underneath the basket. But it's going to be a monumental task against Centennial. But anything can happen. I'd love to see it, but it's going to be a tough one.
8 over a 1 seed does happen on occasion. Need a little luck. Need a couple of bounces to go your way, and you need everyone to be on top of your game. The good news is the pressure is all on Centennial. If Coon Rapids loses, it's to be expected.
Right.
If Centennial loses, that would be a tough pill to swallow through Centennial's hallways the rest of the week. And we'd love to see that.
We'd love to see it. They have to feel pretty good about how they beat the Cardinals both times this year. And I talked to their coach actually today, and I said, you talk to your girls, don't look past anybody at this point, even though you're the 1 and they're the 8. He says, yeah, absolutely. Just play their game and do what they do best, and he hoped to get the win.
Well, we will be there, and we will be there as far as both basketball teams go in their section playoffs, as long as they're within range.
Yes.
and we are allowed to do so. We will certainly do our best to bring you all the basketball postseason action. But that's going to do it for this edition of Sports Night. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us and continuing to support everything we do here at CTN. For the entire crew, including Howie Shapiro, I'm Joe Young, saying good night.